Welcome. So this is a tutorial on, it's a series of tutorials on web scraping, data extraction. If you're a growth hacker, if you're a business developer, marketer, PR person, if you do SEO, link building, or you're an agency and you do lots of outbound stuff, like trying to reach out to people, and you need data, you need customers, potential clients, whoever you're working with, you have to outreach to them, right? Because inbound can only work for so long. You have to eventually do outbound, and you have to kind of reach out to people. That's part of business, right? So anyway, this is tutorial on web data extraction, particularly to generate sales pipeline for your business. My name is Taewoo. I am with GetSalesFox. If you don't know what that is, that's web data extraction and outreach automation platform. So anyway, let me get started. So before we start, there's a couple of things you need to do. Is number one, you need a modern browser. Obviously, because you can use old browsers, right? We prefer that you use Chrome-based browsers like Brave or Chromium or Opera or any of those. Actually, Microsoft Edge is okay too, but we need access to the JavaScript console. And if you don't have access to that, we can't do any of this stuff. And you have to know basics of HTML and JavaScript. Like, you don't have to be like a developer, but you have to understand how HTML is laid out, like the theory, how it works, the basic, super basic stuff. Like, you don't have to be like a hardcore developer or anything like that. So I just want you to know that this isn't like completely programming free tutorial. But you do need to know the basics. It's going to be super simple. There's only like 3 or 4 things you really have to understand, but you do have to understand the fundamentals. So I'm not going to go into the details of how HTML works. So this is not that. So if you need to understand HTML and stuff, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can look on YouTube and any other social media channels on how HTML works. But this is not that. So just letting you know. So there's only a couple of things that you really have to understand. So I'll go over those. So I'm going to use, let me move my head there. So I'm going to use this particular example. You can go to getsalesfox.com/sample.html, or I'll put this slides up so you can actually follow along. You can see it for yourself. So basics of JavaScript, HTML is that it's a tree structure. So tree structure is like there's something on top, and then it has like branches, right? And each branch could have like multiple branches and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that you really have to understand. You don't have to be like I said, you don't have to know how HTML programming works, but this is the tree structure that you have to understand. So if you look in this particular example, the body is the root node, right? It's also the parent. So the parent is the thing on top. So below body is div, the blue box, right? That's the child element, okay? So div is a child element of body, and body is a parent element of div. So that's the relationship. So now behind div, you see the 3 green boxes, right? H1, P, and UL. That's H1 is header, P is paragraph, UL is unordered list. But you don't have to know any of that stuff. You just have to understand the logic of the relationship. So H1, P, and UL, the green boxes, are children elements of the blue box of div. So the div is a parent relative to the 3 green boxes, and the 3 green boxes are the children element of the blue box. Okay, so keep going down. Obviously, you can see that EM, the yellow box, EM, is a child of P, and P is a parent of EM. Likewise, LI, the 2 LI stands for list item, are the children of UL, and UL is a parent of list item. So if you go all the way up the tree, right, the body, the red box, is the parent, is like the ultimate parent of all these, everything on the bottom. Okay, so that's the relationship that you have to understand. Okay, so let me kind of show you a sample one. So here is, let me move my head there. Okay, so here's a sample HTML. Okay, so you can see that this HTML, can I move this or something? Let me move slightly. Okay. All right, there we go. That's a little better. And get rid of this blue line. Okay. So you can see that HTML here, right? So this is how all HTML on every page of any website, they're all structured this way. So they have HTML tag, that's the root node, okay? And it has several predefined components, like head. Head is like stuff that that you don't need to know. These are more for the bots that talk to each other, right? Like what's in the page, like who wrote this, when was it written, like what did you use to write it with, stuff like that, right? Like you don't need to know that as a human, right? You just want to know the information. So that stuff goes in the head, okay? And you can see that head has title, right? And it has a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm gonna skip that for now. But the stuff that humans can see is the body tag, okay? So the body has a whole bunch of children, right? H1P, right? OL, IMG, and P, okay? So if you look on the right, so that you can see that HTML, this blue box, right? If you look to the right, has that body. So that's the child of HTML. And body has a whole bunch of children. And the way you can kind of look at it is like each indentation on the HTML. So that indentation means, like you see how there's a body and then there's like the H1s to the right, right? And then OL, and then there's like LI, right? OL ID equals to do, and then has like 3 LIs, right? List items. So every time that you see a developer put an indentation, that usually implies that that's the children, okay? I mean, they don't have to, but it's for reading purposes. Like if you had everything in just one line, it would be like super hard to read, right? So that's the logic and that's the flow of how this thing goes, okay? So there's a couple of things that you have to understand. So I told you about the child relationship, and one thing I forgot to mention. The H1P and the UL, they are siblings of each other, okay? So you can reference these, but so P is a sibling of H1 and UL. P is also the child of div, and P is also the parent of EM, okay? So that's the traversal relationship thing. It's pretty simple, right? So let me show you the first things you got to do is, sorry about that. I didn't mean to move that. I meant to move my head. Damn you, head. Why so big? Sorry, I got a big head. First thing I want to look at is like, how do you find an element? Okay, so let me go to that page. Let me show you the console. How do I get rid of this? Let me get rid of the presentation. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is a page I mentioned, right? GetSalesFox.com/HTML, right? So if I scroll down, right, it has this, structure. It looks like this, right? Now I'm going to show you the HTML. So as I mentioned, right, this is the HTML that was on the slide. So, right, I'm not trying to trick you or anything. It's all here, right? So anyway, let me close that. Now, if you load this page, this is how it loads. But the thing is, you need to access the developer console. And the way you're going to do that is by pressing Control-Shift-I. Control-Shift-I. Didn't load. Or if that doesn't load, you can just click here under, you see the 3 boxes, the burger button. That's called burger button, right? Oh, it doesn't show on your thing. Okay, just press Control-Shift-I. Okay, did that show? Okay, here we go. So if you press Control-Shift-I, this thing shows up. Okay, so you might see this, right? You might see this. Anyway, but this is what's known as developer console, okay? So let me make this bigger for you guys so you guys can actually see what's going on, okay? So if you do this, this tells you what DOM, the elements in the DOM, right, are being rendered. So if you hover over stuff, right, if you click on this arrow icon and then just hover over things, I don't know if you guys can see it. Sorry, I can't tab back and forth. But anyway, if you click on this arrow thing right here, or if you click mouse over, let me see if you guys can see. I'm not sure if you guys can see this stuff. Okay, you can see it. Because I'm using OBS and it's kind of this funky thing. Anyway, so if you hover over, right, like it shows you body is this, right? And if you hover H1, it's that. Or if you hover over P, it shows you this. If you hover OL, it's that. The reason I'm telling you this is because sometimes when you start doing data extraction, web extraction, like sometimes you don't know like what is what. So you need to kind of you need to have this so that you can actually you can visually see which element is referencing what. Okay, so this video is getting a little bit longer than I expected. So I want to keep this under 5 minutes, but again, maybe that's not possible. Maybe 10 minutes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, let's say you go over to console. Okay, I want to read the title. Okay, let me see if over here, can I? Yes. Okay, I want to get the title of this thing, right? So how would I get this title? Well, this one is relatively easy. So if you want to get the title, you can just type in document.getSelector. Now, don't ask me about syntax yet, because I don't want to get too much into the details of the JavaScript. But the thing that you're searching for, this title, let me zoom in so you guys can see better. This title, right? So if I go back, you see this word title in it? Well, kind of obvious, right? So if you just press it, document.getSelector, okay, just let's not kind of get too hung up on what this thing means, but just know that this function exists. And if you type in title, what? Sorry, query selector. I am going crazy today. Okay, so it tells you that this element, okay, let me zoom out, is that, okay? Remember this, remember title. So you're like, okay, now we can get the title, but how do you get the actual content of that? So the way you get it is by typing dot text content. Okay, now you can see that awesome list, right? Awesome list. Okay, so let's do a little more. So how do you get this H1, right? I'm a monkey. Like, how do you get this text of this thing? Like, how do you scrape that? Well, the same thing. You just same thing. Oh, by the way I got all that was by pressing up. Okay, if you want the console to retype what you typed last, you just press up, and then it will just. What happened? Yeah, keyboard got stuck or something. So if you type in query selector title, right? If you just press up, it will just type the same thing that you typed last. And if you want to get, as I said, H1, you just press H1, right? And then you get that. And if you want to get the text content, you just type in text content, right? So those are simple stuff, right? So let's go back to this presentation. Okay, so the way you get that is by doing document.querySelector. So there are other functions like get element by ID and stuff like that. You don't need to use any of that. This is like the king of all. So this is the thing that you need to use the most, and we'll probably use this like 99% of the time. The other thing that we're going to be using often is this thing called query selector all. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go back to the console, okay, let me go back to the console. Let me make sure you guys can see all this stuff. There's one element here called li, right? There's 3 of them. So if you just do document query selector li, if you press up, okay, li, and then what's the text content? Oops. It says eat, right? And the reason why you got eat, what if I want sleep or poop, right? Is because there's 3 of these elements, right? Eat, sleep, poop, right? There's eat, sleep, poop, okay? Now, document.querySelector, the thing that you get is it looks for the first element, okay? So that's the issue, is that if there are multiple items of the same thing that you're looking for, then obviously it's going to just return the first one. And if you're looking for the second and third, the way you're gonna do it is, let me just type this out, ... Just let's ignore the syntax, like, you know, what does it mean? Like, just ignore that for now, because I mean, you don't really need to know anyway. So so this is a destructuring. So it actually returns a list of nodes, and then we want to turn it into a list. That's a technical term for it. But anyway, you don't need to know that stuff, okay? So if I want to get the list items, right? Because I know there's multiple of them, okay? So now if you click on document.querySelector all, and then you look for list item like this, and then you press enter, right? Notice it returns like these 3 things, right? So if you hover over it, right, you see how the highlight shows up? Yeah, so now that we're able to get them all, now here's the thing. How am I going to get the specific parts? Well, you know, I would love to tell you, but this video is kind of getting long, so I'm going to save that for part 2 of the video. I just have to say that, if you, I'm going to keep going just to, obviously show you how it's supposed to go and stuff. But if coding is not your thing, use GetSalesFox. I mean, shameless self promo. We did a lot of the stuff for you. So we're going to, in the tutorial series, we're going to talk about as much. We're going to get over the gist of it, but there's a lot of like little nitty gritty stuff that, if you're not a developer, is much more difficult. But for simple web scraping, a lot of it can be done with just the stuff from the tutorials. But if you want to do more complex scraping, check out these videos. Like we have browser extensions that can help you scrape like 1,000 times faster. And a lot of the data, it doesn't go to spreadsheet. It goes to Google. It goes to the cloud through Google Drive and stuff. It's so much faster. It's like, I mean, you'll get like billion leads in relatively short amount of time. And I will put this up also on on my website. You can download the code samples and stuff. So that's pretty much it for part 1. I'll see you in the next one.